All right, we are live. And
Good afternoon.
yeah, good afternoon to you. So, what did you preach last night?
When you show up,
When you show up. Well, Linda Langdon has showed up this morning. I mean, this
hey there,
afternoon,
Linda.
early noon. Hey, Linda. And there's Sandra. There's Sandra as well. Sandra, been thinking about you a little bit. Hey, Brand, you must be looking at us from work, girl. Hey, you remember Brandon, don't you,
Yes,
Norman?
I do. I remember her.
She was a little girl that always hugged my legs at church
Mhm.
and wanted to go home with me too. She was my sweetie pie. She
We
was.
all wanted to go home with y'all,
That's true. It's true. But
especially
look,
especially the posse.
you're right. You're right. You guys hung out at our house. Actually, it was fun times though. Fun times, and we did a lot of learning at that point, didn't we?
Mhm. Yep.
Brandy said she is at work. Yeah, yeah, she is at work. Well, look, I'm glad you guys are here. Um, so tell me again, what did you preach last night, Pastor Norman?
The title of my message last night was "When You Show Up," and pretty much I came from Romans chapter 8, um, dealing with verses 19 and 8. Well, first of all, I started actually at verse 14 when it talks about being led by the Spirit, and those that are led by the Spirit are the sons of God. And then also, we receive the Spirit of adoption, whereby we could cry, Abba, Father, we're ears of God and join us with Christ Jesus. But verse 19 and 18, I mean 18 and 19, once again talks about creation travailing, waiting in great expectation for the manifestation of the sons of God. And so, pretty much, I was sharing with them that in Christendom, the pattern has always been about us asking God to do something for us when we in times of trials and tribulations, going through sufferings. We always praying, asking God to do something for us. But again, dealing with the true identity of who we are, we don't actually need God to show up. He's waiting for us to show up. And so,
Exactly.
pretty
Yeah.
much, I was sharing with them that uh, many of us, especially as we are one with Him, but in this particular dimension, we are considered ambassadors, which means we are
Mhm.
representatives of Him in the earth. And so, I talked about the misrepresentation of quote unquote the church, and there was misrepresentation because there was once again those that was misleading us, and a lot of them was misleading us because they did not quite understand that they misread or they misapproached the scriptures. And so we spend a lot of our time approaching scriptures and studying it for the purpose of becoming more religious, where we
Mhm.
should be studying and approaching it in a way of
Mhm.
discovering our identity.
True, true,
So
true, true.
I
Yeah.
talked about how many of us have been affected by religious conditioning. I talked about us waking up and so forth. And so when I mean we had an amazing time, it was an amazing time last night. And so, but yeah, many was blessed by it. And they understood about the season of awakening and being enlightened and us discovering who we really are
Mhm.
and so forth.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, that's good. That's good. And those kind of messages really need to be preached. And we're just thankful that you're awake, an awake pastor,
Bless God.
bringing your people into the promised land.
But I was waiting for impromptu from last week. So much was shared, and I was meditating on a lot of what we discussed,
Hmm.
even what y'all was talking about on Tuesday. And I was going to chime in and start talking about something that I became aware of a movie that all, especially in our age bracket, we all are familiar with, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
And what occurred to me as I was sharing, and a lot of A lot of people are now talking about waking up. Matter of fact, on Sunday, right before we had
Mhm.
our 2 o'clock afternoon empowerment, um, one of my elders came in and they were sharing with me something that their son had just told them, who is not so much what we would say in the church circles,
Mhm.
hit the word to me. And it was funny because when she said, he said that the church is sleeping. And I began to laugh and chuckle
Yeah.
because they had no idea I was going to begin talking about waking up. I wanted them to shake one another and tell them wake up. And we was, continuing the series on awaken. And so someone else came in with this. And so I was pretty much saying, I'm gonna let y'all teach and preach today because this is actually what's being echoed around the world and humanity, that we are in a time where people are becoming enlightened. They are truly waking up. And so I made a statement in the midst of the teaching about oftentimes, and it reminded me of something that Dad said to me. And so what I said, that oftentimes when we are in what we call a unconscious state or a state of unawareness, we go through what we call dreams, but I was focusing on nightmares. I said, many of you are experiencing unconscious nightmares. And when I said that, I thought about the movie Nightmare on Elm Street. Y'all remember Freddy Krueger?
Yeah. I never really watched it because I don't not into horror movies, but I remember.
Yeah, but something occurred to me. And Dad said it to me many years ago when he made this statement to me. In order for me to achieve and be successful in what I was envisioning with Bold Ministries International, he said I would have to go back to sleep.
Yeah, I remember that.
And remember, I instantaneously, immediately, without any thought whatsoever, began to cry
Mm-hmm.
and made the statement, but I don't want to go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so something occurred to me. Oftentimes there are individuals, and Dad mentioned that sometime, and you mentioned it as well, that sometimes we go back and forth. There are times when we are very aware and conscious, and then there are times where we are subconscious and unaware. And so I
Mm-hmm.
thought about something, and I made a statement that oftentimes some of us have been given the assignment to go back to sleep to rescue other people out of their sleep, out
Mm-hmm.
of their nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I thought about Nightmare on Elm Street, on how some of them, in order to go rescue these individuals out of this dream and what they were going through and dealing with Freddy Krueger, they went to sleep intentionally to go rescue someone
Yeah.
else, which kind of began to cause me to think about Jesus and how he came into this dimension, this realm, to wake us up. Now, of course, he did not um go to sleep. He did not go to the place of being unconscious. He, all the while he was there, he was in a very awakened state, but he entered into our dreams to wake us up and
Mm-hmm.
cause us to become aware of who we really are. So again, when I made the statement on a Tuesday, when I think it was, I can't remember who actually mentioned about the creation, but I said that oftentimes Jesus was the example of, once again, humanity totally waking up.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so, but I thought about that. Those of us, because we started this whole impromptu thing dealing with divine guidance. We was talking
We
about
sure
being
did. Mm-hmm.
guided and,
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. And I thought about that oftentimes some of us actually do take it upon ourselves and accept the contract to enter into a state of and go into other people dreams that they have created a false reality to rescue them or wake them up.
Yeah. 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 You made me think of something. You reminded me of something that Pastor taught. He preached this sermon years ago. It was entitled "Praying God, a Sleeping Church, and an Active Devil." And it was right there in this passage of scripture in where Jesus was in Gethsemane, in the Garden of
Mhm.
Gethsemane. He was the praying God. The church was the disciples that fell asleep. And then the ones coming after him was the active devil. So he preached that whole sermon. I remember very clearly. But now I understand that what was there was actually not just a praying God, but a man awake as a God.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were gods laying there sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were gods coming after him, locked into the negativity of their own minds. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a very a very profound message at the time. It really helped us all to see things the way it really is. It is just like that. There are those of us who are awake. There are those sleeping God. Those of us who are gods but we're asleep. And then there is those that are gods that are acting as devils.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing. But while you were talking, also, I thought about this. I learned this on yesterday. I discovered this on yesterday. That when we have things that we're attached to, people, things, events, situations that we're attached to, if we pour our energy into them, it could be our children, it could be our jobs, it could be our career, it could be our bodies, it could be our families, whatever we pour our energy into that gets our whole focus, we tend to identify that as ourselves, not so much as just an attachment, but it becomes an identity. And so
Mm-hmm.
when those things are threatened or removed, you then feel as if you have no identity.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you feel as if you have no identity. So and I don't know why I wanted to inject that, but when when we have those kinds of attachments, it's okay to have an attachment. It's okay to feel attached to your children, your even your career, what you do for a living, what you have a gift or talent for. It's okay to have attachments for it, but when you put all your energy into it, you've constructed an identity, and that's where it becomes dangerous to you because inevitably in this earth realm everything has a beginning and an end. I remember years ago, I learned about the growth principles of the church. I did a lot of studying on that. There's the beginning period of a church, and he showed it like a curve. You go into it, and then the church begins to prosper, begins to grow, it goes up, it begins to flourish, it begins to draw people, it begins to develop programs and become very effective, and then it reaches a peak. Once it reaches that peak, if it doesn't change what it did down here, it will continue, but it will go down,
Now, exactly.
decline. And so that's what happens to a lot of churches. That's what happens to a lot of people because once you peak out, there is no place to go but up or down. You're not going to go up unless you change what you've done before.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
if you continue doing things as you have always been, you're not going with the flow. You're simply holding on to what you have identified with. And then when you do that, then you begin to decline. And a lot of churches decline at their peak.
I wish you was my tag team partner last night
Yeah.
because I mentioned that because concerning and of course we've been talking in great detail about living in the atmosphere of change, and
Yeah.
so I mentioned that, and I said to them, now in the words of the prophet Isaiah, he said, remember not the former things nor the things of old, for behold, God is
Mm-hmm.
about to do a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the church has been guilty of using cliches, statements, and phrases that sound good to excite the people, but really was not embracing what they were saying. because they lacked
Yeah, yeah.
insight or revelation of what they were saying. They were in the intention was to excite the people rather than to reveal to the people what is actually occurring. And so when we oftentimes use that scripture, when we say remember not the former things, we're always talking about in a negative way, as
Mhm,
if forget all of the bad stuff that happened in your life. But it didn't
mhm,
say that. It just simply said remember not the former things. So it could have
mhm,
been
mhm,
bad things or good things as well. And
mhm.
so after the pandemic, there are a lot of churches that's trying to go back, like you said, and embrace what they have been accustomed or familiar with. And I
Mhm.
was sharing with them last night, it's not going to work.
It
And so
yes, because, and I don't mean to cut you off, Pastor Norman,
you
but
get
it's
that.
because we're in a different paradigm.
Exactly.
And so the antiquated methods will not work in this new paradigm. We must change or become dinosaurs. And that's what's happening. But also I like what Linda said. I wanted to address what she said. Linda says, when one is awake like Jesus, did Jesus see disease or lack or suffering, or did he see only perfection, Christ and God and all? Does one have to be sleepy at least to see the duality? That's a very good question, because I think Jesus did see it, but he
Mhm.
didn't believe it.
Exactly.
He
Exactly.
saw the disease, he saw the lack, he saw the suffering, and actually did something with it to
Hmm.
to change it, but he didn't believe it.
Hmm. And
But those who did, he had to do something to help them out of their beliefs.
exactly. And the part where it says, and did he see only perfection? Well, he made the statement. He said, "Be ye perfect, for I am perfect."
Hmm.
And so again, Jesus entered in this particular dimension to wake us up. And even in the events and occurrences that happened when those that were sick or diseased and they were healed, remember there was a statement he always said. He didn't even say so much that he healed them. He said, "Thy faith or your faith has made you whole."
Yes, so he saw that she was sick,
Mhm.
but he didn't believe it the way she did.
Exactly.
So and so that's in our personal lives as well. That's not just what we're talking about, is not just the way of churches. This is the way of our personal lives. Because
Mhm.
I remember there was another spiritual teacher that said this, that the difference in most people and the sages, is not that the sage doesn't recognize any suffering. It's not that the sage can't see it. The sage looks at it and sees the same thing, but it doesn't believe it.
Exactly.
And
They,
so that's and but Linda has a second part to that I think is really crucial. She said, does one have to be sleepy at least to see the duality? To see, when you say the duality, break that down for me, Linda, because I don't want to assume that I understand you. So he said, does one have to be sleepy? And I thought about you, Pastor Norm, when you said, Pastor, that Dad said you would have to go back to sleep
mhm.
in order to hold on to the construction of bold. I'll say it like that.
Mhm.
But now we see in the pandemic that the construction of bold was dismantled.
Exactly.
But so now bold is not a physical, visible entity any longer.
Mhm.
It is now, I'll say, in the cloud.
I love that. I love that. In the
Mhm,
cloud.
mhm.
Yes.
Cornerstone is no longer a visible, physical entity any longer. It's now in the cloud.
Mhm.
But he said, we shall be caught up to meet him in the cloud.
Yep. In the end. That's right. That's
So
right.
that's the new day that a lot of pastors are resisting. There,
Mm.
and when we resist things, that's when we suffer.
Yep. And it's because again they spend so much of their time allowing all these different attachments to pretty much give them a meaning or identity. And
Identity.
so,
Yes.
and so
Yes.
again, going back
Self-worth. Self-worth.
exactly,
Yes.
and only once again to fulfill a concept that was projected on us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Again, when we talk about how we determine that one is successful,
Yes.
we use money or what type of house they live in or what type of car
Mm-hmm.
they're driving to give a measurement
Yeah.
towards success. And in the eternal, or like Dad said, the being in eternal, or that place of um no duality, there is no such thing as success. We just is.
It just is. And yeah, yeah. Let me show you what Sinette's saying. Hey Sinette, she's in Denmark. Hey Sinette, I'm glad you're here. She said we can see the illusion, but we do not need to attach to it. We can
Exactly.
choose to allow to be this being all encompassed me, which is Christ. And
Mhm.
then Linda comes back. Thank you, Linda. She says, sleepy in being part of this world, or duality in opposites, hot or cold or good or bad.
Mhm.
But we see that. Do we not?
Mhm.
Do we not see the opposites already still? And yet we're awake. And I said this on Tuesday, and you feel free to jump in when you're ready, hon. I said this on Tuesday that there is a difference in being awake from the dream and being awake in the dream.
Dream. Yes, yes. And Jesus was awake in the dream.
In the dream, he came into the dream.
Right,
The,
exactly. And
the,
that's what
the,
I was
the
talking about.
God essence came into the dream through the gateway, the same gateway that we came through.
Exactly.
And so to be fully a part of the dream and yet not of the dream, that's why he said, you are in the world, but not of the world.
Of the world.
So we are still in the dream, but awake in the dream. I know I'm dreaming. I know everybody's dreaming. It's called lucid dreaming. I know we're dreaming, but
Mhm.
to wake out of the dream, I don't know if that's when we exit the body, or can we do that while we're still in the body? What do you think?
You'd have to enter into the hypnagogic state. You have to be like having is it mind awake, body sleep. It'd be like walking in your sleep. I talked to somebody this morning whose little boy is in bed. He falls out of bed,
Mm-hmm.
and I told him I could tell him what that is, but he didn't have time because he was working. Um, we wake up. I'm getting to where I can wake up in the conversation I'm having with people on the other side,
Mm-hmm. You wake up in the dream.
and I wake up in that state already there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody goes to that place. So what I did years ago, I studied how certain inventors or creatives or creators found the secret to how something worked by practicing the hypnagogic state. And that's like you doing it now. I can see you looking down at something, and I can see that you are in that. You hit the switch. It's like most people are talking and typing at the same time.
Multitask.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that's the switch.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're talking to them, but they hear you, but they somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Mm-hmm.
split. That's a
Mm-hmm.
split.
Mm-hmm.
That is the practice of the split that we must perfect in listening to the false identity versus the true self as the watcher. The watcher is always observing one or the other, or the watcher is watching all of it at one time, like a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we looking at the screen now and we see each other. We notice that the frame of the screen is in our depth perception, but our
Mhm.
attention is in the picture. So if you're going to follow this thing all the way to the end, you have to uh, look at the picture and omit the frame.
Yeah, I remember.
So that's what she's talking about, that state
Yeah.
of hitting that switch.
Well,
And some of the miracle workers knew how to do that. Some people hit it hard,
yeah.
hit it easy, and hit
Yeah.
it strong.
But and you're talking about in a deliberate manner, and which
Yeah.
is what we all need to know how to do.
Mm-hmm.
However, I remember Dr. David Hawkins. He's gone on now, passed over, crossed over. He in his experience of awakening enlightenment, he classified it like this: that he had an absolute death of the ego. He experienced it. He said it was like actual dying. I can't give you all the details because I don't remember all the details myself. But he said it was like literally dying. It was like David Hawkins actually died. And he said it was a gruesome, horrible feeling that he had for not very long, but he experienced it. After that happened to him, he went in the woods in a cabin and stayed, and he didn't want to. He had no desire to do anything but just be. And
Wow.
I remember him saying that he had maybe an apple he would eat every day, and that was satisfying to him. He would sleep if he needed to, but most of the time he didn't even need that. And somebody had to come and actually help him come back into the world so that he could teach. Because he left the world. Remember it said Enoch walked with God and he was not?
Yes, Enoch.
Dr. David Hawkins experienced that. He walked with God and he was not. And so at that point, somebody helped him to come back to his earthly self so that he could teach. And he did. He came back and he taught for the rest of his earthly life and brought people into awakenings and enlightenment. But it was because he had that experience of leaving this world. So he actually awoke out of the dream. Could have laid down and just died.
Wow.
It could have laid down and just gave up the ghost. I'll say it like that. Because it had no other reason to be here.
But that's what he meant when he said, "I go into the fall and you see me.
And you see me no more.
I can be right in front of your face and be somewhere else.
And you won't see me. Yes.
You think you see me, but you don't. What he's talking about, you won't see me. You won't. You really. He was saying you really not seeing me unless you look through.
Yes.
Now, when Peter said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God," and he said the Father revealed that to him, what he was telling Peter was that at that moment, Peter, you hit the switch. Yeah. You're not aware of it. You didn't know you hit it.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah.
I flipped out last night.
Yeah. Now I wanted to bring this back up because I think I said this in this writing that I did. Maybe a different one. I'm looking to see if it's on this one. But there was a writing that I did recently where I talk about how you look at me and you think you see me. And I'll look and see if I can find that. But anyway, yeah, you're exactly right. When people look at us, they think they see us. They don't see us. We cannot be seen.
Well, think about it. Paul said in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 16, we are to know no man by the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you really not seeing me. You're seeing, like Dad would say, the suit. You see the suit, but you don't see me.
Exactly. So you have to have the eyes of your divinity to look to see past the suit.
Well, I love that. The eyes.
Yeah. You have to. That's the only way only God can see God. Only God.
That again, Ma?
Only God can see God. Only God can see God.
So now that you pretty much took us back to when you talked about the gods, about them being asleep. Well, that is mentioned in Psalms 82, that the gods know nothing, for they're walking around in darkness, which means they're sleepwalking.
And all
So
Yeah.
and because of that, all the earth
Is out of course. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Let me say this. You said something about sleepwalking.
We talked about that last week too, sleepwalking.
I run across some information that will, to me, will blow your shoes off about sleepwalking and creativeness.
Mm-hmm.
My discovery, the discovery is, you didn't find you were allowed to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
The word creativeness is called waking up and learning the melody of the heart.
Mm, I
That's
like
good.
that.
That's
I like
good.
that.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yes, I like that.
The creativeness that we and anybody else in this world, I understood finally what was going on with me in school when I would be, the teacher would let me stand in the window and draw while the rest of the class was doing the classwork. And once in a while, he would stop me and said, "Sorry, you're gonna have to sit down this time."
Hmm.
Mhm.
I didn't know that from the first grade all the way through, I drew my first picture, and during that time, we didn't start first grade. You learn how to write your name on that paper. It's got all the sections in it, the lines. I saw God. I saw the creativeness of God drawing pictures.
Mhm.
The first thing I drew in the first grade was a picture of a fisherman with a wet fishing suit on, the big hat at the back, and the coat and the boots. The next pictures I drew as I went was Samson and Delilah in the movie. Cecil B. DeMille, I drew. They used to have it on the newspaper, and I cut it out and took it to school and drew it. The whole actual event of him pushing the pillars down and Delilah at his feet.
Mm. Mm.
Then all the way through high school, I drew and I stopped. When I was around 10, somebody said, "You don't need to be playing with those trucks and tractors. Say, you need to get your girlfriend at 12 and 13." I didn't know then that was the ego dark side trying to get me out of creative abilities. Okay, here it is.
Yeah.
Every talent that you got, like painting and designing, that is the creative voice of God coming out of the secret place. Now, hold on to this.
Okay.
Our spirit or eternal self is speaking, wooing to us in creativeness. I don't care what it is. What socialization or socialism is doing to the mind in our generation is shutting down the communication of our intuition and causing us to fall deeper into sleep with that phone in our hands. And they telling us, even those that are sleep false sleep awake, are telling us on the signs on the road, if you are texting, who's driving your car?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what they're telling us is that something is hypnotizing us to not use our creativeness. But listen to this. This is crazy now. Before you can drive your car, you got to be in touch with God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
because that's what is called multitasking. That's
Mhm.
coming out of the creative ability that is in every one of us from the state of the creative ability that created the universe. I saw the small parts of God coming through all the way from being conceived in the womb all the way out to now. All of that creativeness is built, and it's not in us, we are made out of it.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
That's
yes,
the
yes,
true nature
yes.
of our eternal self.
Now
I just
I found what I was looking for. Go ahead, Pastor Norman, and I'll do this when you finish.
I just thought about something Dad just said about the example he gave concerning the phone. Um, and something occurred to me. Those that are actually actively creating have become the hypnotists to those that are not. And so
Mm,
what I'm saying is
mhm.
whoever actively is creating, and I use the phone again, those of us that are not awakened and not creating, and we are created in his image and in his likeness, which means we have the same ability, we have been hypnotized by someone that created this, and they know it. And
Yeah.
so all of our attention and all of our lives have been placed into this with the algorithms and everything else, the
Yeah.
social media, and we become addicted. And that makes it easy for us to become addicted when we're sleeping because we're not actively creating ourselves, which even like dealing with reality shows, we are entertained by somebody else's reality while we're not living or active in our own reality.
True.
Okay, I'm gonna say this right quick before I lose it.
Okay.
Um, the greatest God, the strongest God that is worshipped in this dimension, in the area of our creativeness, is opinions of each other to the degree that we are pleasing everybody with our gift, our creativeness. Our creativeness was not supposed to be judged by somebody liking it or not liking it. For instance, when I go back there in the back to get on my sewing machine or to make something, I should, and I can feel that I'm doing this, even with the bicycles that I'm messing with, everything, the house. Even though it feels good for people to look at it and gratitude. Oh, I like that. Wish I could do that. Um, that is a God that we worship in each other opinions about our creativeness or creative God abilities. But we should be able to do that with or without the God of opinions judging us, even within ourselves.
True. True.
So now, here we are at a place I feel like I want to doodle. That's creativeness of God coming through. It is the
Mhm.
energy center located right here below the navel in the belly. This part down in that area is what causes you to want to make something or bake a cake, uh, uh, make a pull up a recipe. I didn't know that my aunt, who couldn't read or write, could hardly talk good, she was using her God self in creating recipes and food for the rich and famous bankers that she worked for.
Yeah. Can I
Yes.
jump in? Yes, and you're right. But this is where I want to kind of bring us back around. And the reason why I say that is this: when we say we wake up or we get lost in this or we get caught up in the social media, that's a different we than the we that we really are.
Yeah,
Mhm.
The we that we really are is not caught up in any of that.
that's right.
All right.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
this is the writing that I was looking for that I had done. So this is what it says: I am a portal of consciousness. That's all we are. A portal of consciousness streaming down through the crown chakra into this form. That's what we are. I am a continuous stream, never static, a download from higher dimensions. That's what we are. It is what I am. I am a light stream blowing through this mortal flesh, an immortal essence, life being. As I flow into this body, I am experienced as an individual through writings, sayings, laughter, facial expressions, thoughts, and feelings. Yet there is no person here that possesses these qualities. For I am purely a stream of unconditioned consciousness. There is, in fact, no person here to attract or to project or to even create. Just a stream, a flow of pure light and awareness. I am the one who looks for another and finds itself. I, as this stream of unconditioned consciousness, am the carrier of revelations and insights. This is a clear indicator of what I truly am. I'm not a who, I'm a what. I stream through this mind and body until such time as this mind and body no longer functions. I appear to others as conditioned awareness, leaving the impression of a person that others think I am. That which is left after this body dies will be evidence that this portal was once open and I flowed into this earth existence. Premeditation and thinking only serve to veil my essence. I, as the flow, never cease, and I am often thought to be solid matter. Others looking on may think that everything originates from me as a person, but there is no person to claim what comes forth as the stream. The stream is pure and gentle and free and clear. I am pure, gentle, free, and clear. It has no shape, but it can appear to take shape. I have no shape, but I appear as a shape. What I truly am is veiled by my own appearing. This unconditioned consciousness is the only reality. So we forget that even while we're talking, we forget that we're that.
Exactly. So
we
again,
forget that we're
in and
that.
out.
And start to identify as bodies and minds, and that's not what we are. There's not a person here that has to wake up. What I am is already awake. It is awakening itself. So to come out of the duality teachings or the duality language is difficult because it's a habit. It's habitual for us to talk this way, instead of talking from that we truly are. Because if we talk from what we truly are, there won't be a whole lot said about a whole lot of other things.
Yes. And I have no idea why this word popped up in the midst of your conversation. We talk about evolving, but there's an ebbing going on as well. And I've never, and so I had to look it up. Why did I hear ebbing? And it means to vanish, to expire. And so the false identity has an expiration date. So there's an ebbing going on as well, in the process of awakening.
And I thought about, like this, Pastor Norman, when you said ebbing, the analogy of the wave in the ocean. We are like the wave that comes up out of the ocean. It has, and they talk about ebb and tide with the ocean all the time. And so we come up. That's the tide. We come up. We flow up. We come up out of that. As that stream, we come up out of that body of consciousness. We come up out of it, and we are consciously alive, and we move, and we do, and we have, and we do all of these different things, and we create, and we do all of this stuff, and then we ebb, go right back into what consciousness is.
What is that blue stuff we wash the pots and pans with? Is it Dove? It's not Dove. It's the watch.
It's
What?
dishwasher.
Dawn.
What's
Dishwasher
the
liquid.
name of it?
Dawn.
This is Dawn.
Dawn. Okay,
Yeah.
here's what I did. I found out that Dawn will cut grease.
Oh,
You better
yes.
believe it.
Yes.
Look,
yes.
they got a Dawn that'll cut paint.
Okay. I found out that the Holy Spirit, or thy real true identity, will cut grease.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the Holy Spirit, Dawn, and started putting little caps of it in my windshield.
We are not promoting Dawn, by the
No,
way.
we're not. I put it in my windshield washer container, a liquid holder, and mixed it up in there. Well, I'm cleaning the grease off my window. You know, Coca-Cola and Pepsi sodas will eat the grease off your windshield.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And some people, they paint is not strong enough; it'll eat the paint off their car.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine? We dump it in our belly. They put in those sodas.
By the way, your mom used to love hamburger and Cokes.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
she never had high cholesterol. And I think the Coke boiled it out.
They boiled it out.
The Coke boiled it out.
Boiled the grease off the pot.
Yeah.
Now, after a while, my windshield reserve tank started leaking, and I went to the Chrysler place and told him. I said, "What's wrong with this thing leaking?" He said, "Well, probably your windshield washer reservoir that hold the jug to hold the water, this stuff." I didn't dawn on me. I said, "Well, I'm putting that detergent stuff in there," and what it was doing was eating the glue off of the pipes.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did, here's what I did. Now this is weird. Spirit let me see what was wrong with it. I done went and bought little parts of it and everything. And the motor was leaking. That's the compressor motor in there. And I said, if it cleaned the glue off, why don't I use the glue that it cleaned off to put it back together? So what I did was washed it off. Yes, I did. I washed it out real good. And the glue that was letting the water drip out was still there. Now, here's what happened when I saw. In the spirit, I was in the garage, and I was using glue, and I looked at two pieces of wood that I put together, even metal. I saw the glue that was holding it like this. They were little bitty people. Sound like Disney. And those little bitty people, he told me that the glue grabbers.
This is the glue king, glue and duct tape king right here. If you stand still, he'll glue you and duct tape you to the wall. I guess it will.
So the glue grabbers told me. I looked in it and I heard him talking. I heard him talking between the wood. He said, "If you would leave us alone, we would hold everything together." I heard him say, and then I caught the picture. He said, they kept talking. They're like ants. They talked to me. They said, "This is what we do when you put us on. We mate with each other, have an intimacy," and it said we become locks, like in a ship. Locks, these locks. And he said, "You keep messing with it." He said, you pulling us back, putting it there, pulling it back. So what I did, I cleaned the tank out, and I got some special glue. I put it back just like it was. That thing saved me hundreds of dollars. The glue grabbers.
The glue
grabbers. Now here's what I'm saying. When we start waking up to our true identity, it weakens the glue that's connecting the monkey mind to our spiritual identity, and it causes that part of us to fall apart. When it starts falling apart, we call it spiritual warfare, but it's not a warfare. It's the glue loosening hold of the mess that we've been putting in this pot, and it breaks loose. And what the Spirit of God does is move it stuff in between it out of the way, and makes more space for us to put water back in it and start it over again. Each time we see something on these classes, a certain part of us is broke off. And the only way you gonna get down there to the Titanic, like them guys tried to do a few months ago, you got to have a special type of machine or a boat or whatever it is to get down there, because the average church stuff, oh, there we go. I went to pop it. I felt the pop. Average church stuff will not allow you to go into the depths of the Titanic to see exactly why it sunk. You can say icebergs did it, but there's something to the mystery of the Titanic that caused that boat to sink. And the ones that went down there, they did not have the right ingredient. The only true ingredient that's going to take us into the depths of this state of seeing the miraculous, normal normal miracles of God has to come through an agent that cannot be disturbed from the opposite objects that it is in. Mm-hmm. If we understand these metaphors that they're telling us in Hollywood, it will tell us how to walk out of the monkey mind and the stuff. The Titanic is still down there, but it has served no purpose. Look at it as the watcher. It cannot float. They showed one movie where they went down into the Titanic and put airbags in the doggone thing and raised it. Now, I thought that was real, but that was just a movie. Mm-hmm. The truth behind this thing, that's the reason why Jesus could walk on water. He got free in this dream world from the metaphor, the story.
He saw the illusion, but it doesn't believe it. He doesn't believe it.
Now I'm listening to Dad's language.
I know.
Even though it's humorous, but there is so much insight in it. And what I extracted from it was all the different things that he said, especially going back to the glue grabbers.
The glue grabbers.
and then you mentioned Hollywood. Okay, so you're speaking in what, again, Jesus parables in Old Testament, they were known as dark sayings. And so for anyone to kind of comprehend or understand, they would have to be on that same frequency. Now, watch this. Now, while you was talking, I was saying to myself, Dad loves Pixar, that the company that do animation, Pixar, because when you was talking about the glue grabbers, those type of stuff they put out with like hot fighting cold, the different
and
all the stuff. And then you mentioned Dream World, where there's an organization called DreamWorks.
Okay.
They also put out animation. So
Lord have mercy.
With that in mind, for when you talk about no judgments, we have to understand that many people are on different frequencies. And so remember, when Jesus was teaching and he was using metaphors and analogies that they were supposed to have been familiar with, oftentimes he would take the disciples to the side and he would say for them, they were unable to understand, or there was no revelation or insight, but for you, they should be. And so even though we were laughing, and Mom and I, someone else may not understand it, but those of us that are awake, I understand clearly.
And
what you said.
I knew you would, but look, you can sum it up very, very easily. What he said and all of the things that he said, and it was very true. What he said is that there must be enough space between your thoughts that will give you an opening to be able to comprehend what you are.
Yes.
There has to be enough space. There has to be enough thinning out of this focus on everything that's relative to my body. Focus on everything that's relative to my feelings and what I'm thinking. There must be enough space. If there's enough space, there will be an opening. And when that opening is there, the glimpse of what you are. And see, I don't want to say it's a who we are, because when you say who, that means you got to give a description of
Identity.
as
Yeah,
a person,
personality.
as a personality. But
Right.
we are a what?
Mhm.
We are a what? God is a what? God is not a who.
Now that's good. So, in all actuality, we need to be on a journey of not discovering who we are.
But what we
We
are.
need to be on a journey of what we are.
Exactly.
Now,
Yeah.
Good. That's
the
good.
more I'm gonna try to say this real, if I can get the right words.
You know this, like I said, this is the glue and duct tape king. You stand still too long, he
Now,
will glue you and duct tape you to the wall.
now, if he sit down and jot a lot of that stuff down and send it to Pixar, I promise you they can make
They'll make a movie.
they will make a movie of the glue and the duct tape.
Yes, they will. They would. They would make a movie.
Look at Linda, she just said, I love
I
Pixar.
love
As-
Pixar. Yeah.
When the little boy on the Matrix told the
So
Keanu Reeves,
Neo
the spoon
said,
don't bend, you
yeah,
do.
it's not the spoon
Oh
that
my
bends.
God.
Yeah,
You
this
had
is
to go
not
there.
the spoon that
Yeah.
bends, but it is you.
It's you.
See, now I'm gonna go back and pull up all my old movies.
Yeah.
The part of us that love to make things is the same part of us where the fun part of God exists in our energy center around the navel area. Laughing from the heart is called laughing from that energy center that is connected to the heart. This thing called fun is called staying on the inner cellular structure beyond time. Because when you're laughing and doing that, you lose track of something and it keeps repeating itself over in you in order for the laughter to continue, because that is your true self that's speaking through the creativeness or the creative part. When you see people on phones talking and somebody at the table, they shutting down the part of them that is creative and have and of joy is beginning to freeze, and they have no idea of it. They are, they've been hijacked.
Mm-hmm.
The phone is hijacking them. We create for fun, not for approval or disapproval of anybody. That's just the way it is. It helps us to open up to this power or this ability because it is the intuitive part of God laughing and lightheartedness through us. And it causes these feelings to turn into words that when they go out, they do not return void.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They create this laughter. It opens the power of the heart center in a big way when we have fun and laughter. The creative gift is what cranks up the God ability that created the world, the universe. It cranks it up with that center. It unlocks the power of God in the universe, and this is why so much hurt and pain is crossing people up in their minds, in the mind, and causing depression, oppression, worry, fear, bad memories, and sleepwalking.
Yeah.
We're not releasing it.
Nightmares. Nightmares.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's causing us to shut down a gift of creativity. And that means we need to get back to doing something, working in something, doing it something out in the yard. And I'm gonna be honest with you, you just can't get it all out creating babies. You just you can't create babies all day.
Dad, you are not. have for breakfast this
I
morning?
don't know. I think somebody peed in his fruity pebbles or something. Listen, listen, listen.
Dad, you're a nut.
It is a nut, and I live with this nut for 54 years. But look, when you go, if we go back to the Matrix was all about them being streams of consciousness.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's all they were in that movie. In fact, they could stream into different forms. They had the mechanism where they could jack in, like he said, a jack in, they put the thing in the back of the neck.
Oh, I think I'm jack me out.
No, don't go there. Don't go there. But they could move their consciousness into different forms.
But the
And
funny
different
thing about
types.
but the funny thing about it, and they didn't use this word, they used machines, but actually they were dealing with an artificial intelligence.
Sure.
That was learning their behavior and using it against them.
Now, what was interesting in the I think the last one that he did in that sequel, when he was fighting the Smith, and the Smith being the enemy, Smith didn't realize. Let me say it like this: he beat his enemy by allowing his enemy to consume him. And when the enemy consumed him, the enemy didn't realize that the consciousness that he went into him.
Exactly.
And it destroyed him. Because that consciousness was stronger than what he was, that artificial intelligence. But it's just so ironic to me that Hollywood, and you guys said it, Hollywood has been onto this for a long time.
Well, it's because in order to put the things out that they're putting out, they are actively imagining where others are not. They're exactly. and I keep thinking about, with Dad and the toys and all of that. A lot of people frustration that they're dealing with is you're not actively creating your sleep. That's all I can put. You're asleep or you're idle, and you're trying to find all these different things to blame for you feeling that way when all you have to do is come alive.
And I have to say this, that you're right in the fact that a lot of people haven't found their creative core. And so they feel, but see, then the ego, and I like what Marvita's asking, was Smith the ego? And in a sense he was. And I think what happens in a lot of our lives is we tend to want to do something that would be memorable or something that would be very notable, or we want to do something that's going to stand out, and instead of simply allowing that creativeness, whatever it is, even like his aunt, he was talking about his aunt, that was her creative ability to cook.
She loved it.
Just to cook. Your mom.
See, that's you said that.
Yeah.
Because there's an actual difference from doing something that's meaningful versus doing something memorable. And so a lot of people are getting caught up doing things
that would be memorable,
become a memorial.
Yes.
Rather than just go ahead and do something that's meaningful, which means if they remember it or not, if it's memorable or not, I'm content because it's bringing meaning to me.
And when it's really coming from that creative core, it isn't hooked to, I want to make money with it.
Now, see, and I'm glad you mentioned my mom. Because for years, like I said, ever since I came back in the late early 90s, back home, my mom was really actively baking and cooking. All right. When I say come back, I'm talking come back home. All right. So I was trying for years to get her to start a business and so forth and so on, and she didn't want to do it. So now, even right now, of course, y'all have had her stuff. I don't say it because she's my mom. She is phenomenal. All right.
That's the gift.
And so forth. But she would not allow me at all to put any of her stuff on social media.
There you go.
Right? Because of course, if that happens, then there will be people that, you know, is going to want her to, you know, make stuff, whatever. So she's not doing it for money. She's not doing it for profit. She's not doing it for, you know, something to be memorable. She's doing it because she loves it. She just loves it.
Yeah, that's what I do with the house. Like every 2 or 3 years, I completely change the house, don't I? And it's not because I get tired of it, but when I envision something, I want to make it happen. I just want to make it.
Well, send me some money.
That's not what I'm envisioning.
Oh.
but that goes back to what we talked about last week and the week before when you mentioned about your dad and I mentioned about my grandfather. A lot of them, when they get to a certain age and they stop, they retire, you know, no longer working or whatever, it's like instantaneously they go down.
They do.
Because that's what happened. I mean, soon as he stopped, because he used to drive all the way up into his 70s, he used to drive kidney patients, pick them up from the home and take them to dialysis.
Yeah.
And soon as he stopped and retired, immediately.
Now, see, like for myself with the writings, I've been really trying, and he knows I've been trying to come to this place of doing it deliberately and writing a book, but I don't know at this point what a book would be about. When I sit down to write, and I learned this about a year ago, it's not automatic writing. I'm not getting something from somebody else channeling through me, but I sit down and I just put a word on the paper. And when I put the word on the paper, the next word comes. And I looked that up. It's called streaming consciousness.
Exactly.
That's how books are written, through streaming consciousness. So now I have to wait for inspiration. I have to have the inspiration. When I sit down, I can't just decide I'm going to write about this. That doesn't work that way. So when, you know, a lot of people say, well, you should be writing a book. Yes, I realize that. But my book may take me 10 years. I don't know. But I've got all of the writings. I don't know when they come together, what they make. And so what kind of book they make. And not yet. But I know eventually it will unfold. But all of my writings come through that streaming consciousness. It's not me sitting and thinking I'm going to write this. It's not that.
That's the gift. That's really God speaking to her, through her. Our time is going.
Yeah, it is.
Let me tell you about this little boy.
Marvita, we see your comments, sweetie. We're just running out of time here.
What is Rotterdam is a city in Denmark?
It's a city, I think, in the Netherlands.
Netherlands.
Don't quote me on that, but I think yes.
There's a little boy in school, and the teacher wanted him to make a sentence out of Rotterdam. And so he looked and said, "Okay." He said, "My little sister took my candy last night, and I told her I hope it Rotterdam teeth out."
See, now where did that come from?
So now you see me.
Where did that come from?
I already was laughing before he even gave the punchline.
You know.
I know.
Oh my God.
So they asked another question in the class. The little boy said, the teacher said, "Can anybody here tell me something about Jesus and what he really happened to him at Calvary and what went on?" And the little boy raised his head. She said, "Well, what happened? What you know about him?" Well,
is this a clean? Is this a clean joke?
No, I don't know. He was in Judgment Hall. They beat him. They put him in prison. They took him, put a cross on his back, and
put him in the tomb.
They put him in the tomb, and they buried him. And on the third day, he had an erection.
An erection.
It's supposed to be a resurrection, but he is. Yeah.
You are nasty.
No, that's what he said. He got the word
Lord.
crossed
We
up.
don't want to hear that no more.
He said erection.
We don't want to hear
a
it.
resurrection.
We don't want to hear that.
Okay. But so
Dad.
I'm teaching you how
No, you ain't teaching us nothing now but how to be nasty.
you. I ain't nasty.
Yes, you are.
I ain't.
Yes, you are nasty.
I'm telling you, have
You
fun.
are the
I'm
nasty.
telling you to have
You're
fun.
a dirty old man.
Okay, he didn't have no erection. Then.
No. Oh my God.
So now everybody should know why we used to love to come to Dad and Mom's house, because Dad knew how to keep us
I
cracking.
think I'm turning red. Am I turning red?
Yes, you
Don't be saying that online.
Well, I didn't say nothing bad.
You did.
No, that ain't bad. I just tell them what I heard. You shame? I'm not.
I'm not ashamed.
Yes, you are. You done turned red in my shirt.
I can't believe you said it.
I mean, they don't scare me.
I know they don't, but somebody else might scare you. Oh my God.
Hey, it's like trying to get a train to not have a flat tire.
Okay, you've had enough.
What am I
You've
drinking?
had enough of all of this.
Yeah, and it's like trying to.
You can't get out of this.
I ain't trying to get out of it.
What you trying to explain?
Nothing. I'm just cutting up with y'all, but it's fun. It's fun and it's lighthearted. And you need some of y'all a little bit tight. You need a little.
Well, listen, I'm gonna change the thought for a minute.
Okay.
You're helping to destroy some of their religious conditioning.
Of course, yeah. I understand that. That's fine.
They're gonna know that if in the church where they say you ain't saved, you can't.
Look, I said this a long time ago, Pastor Norman. They either gonna love him or they gonna hate him.
Mm-hmm.
There's no in between. There is no in between.
Well,
listen, I want to mention this before we go on.
Ahead.
Marvita Johnson, she's the sweetie pie up in. Her dad, we knew her dad from up in Wisconsin. Her dad was Pastor.
Oh wow, she watched The Alchemist. I do too.
Yeah, she's read. I guess she's read or what? I haven't. Is it a movie? Is it a movie, Alchemist?
Well, actually, there is on YouTube. There's a young lady who considers herself the Alchemist.
Yeah,
I watched that. Yeah,
there's a author, Paul. I think I'm saying his name, Coelho. He actually wrote the book, The Alchemist. Mm-hmm. So Marvita is doing a session, I think this month. Don't remember the exact date, but I will post that later on. She's going to be hosting that discussion about that. And he mentions the different things that we were talking about in that book of the creativity and all of those things. He said, because it's all about the journey to the destination and not the destination itself. And then she mentions that we are co-creators with the Creator. We are born to create.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. Pearl said certain words are not allowed on YouTube, so be careful, Pastor. They will stop. They will cut your channel off.
That is true.
They hear that word, they might.
I understand.
Okay. So I'm not going to try to reprimand you, but that is the truth. That is the truth.
I understand.
Okay. Hey, Sinette, thank you, darling, for the fun journey.
Then that's going to be a whole lot of people off of YouTube.
Yeah, it will.
You know it.
Yeah, it will be.
But a lot of people already off of YouTube.
Yeah, they censoring. They do censor.
And Facebook.
Mm-hmm. She'll do. So anyway, he's already said it and it's out there. It's like the feathers in a pillow, so we can't get them back. Now we will be back. You gonna be traveling next week or not?
Who me? No, I will not be traveling next week. So I actually have a week where I would not be traveling, but the following week I may be.
So what about your wife's family and the funeral and all?
Oh well,
you already did that.
She right before I got on broadcast, I did get a call from her. So they have made it into Georgia, but the homegoing services is going to be this weekend, Saturday. And
Okay.
so again, I wasn't able to go because I have to actually officiate a wedding on Saturday. But
Okay.
yeah, so keep her and the family lifted up in prayer,
Okay.
especially her sister Janie, because this is real hard
I'm
for
sure.
her, losing two daughters within a 3-month period. And
Yeah.
so it's really difficult time for them all.
I know. Well, listen, then we will be back next week unless something happens that we can't. We will be back next week with Pastor Norman. The two of us, this person right here, will be back with us next week at 12:30 on
I'm gonna
Thursday.
retire. I'm retiring after that today. I'm retiring.
You retiring?
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
retiring.
you ought to quit.
I'm gonna let her bring it back next week.
Look, Linda said get a list of forbidden words for Pastor. Yeah, we need that.
I'm gonna let her have it next week. I ain't gonna say nothing.
See, look, now he gonna get all offended and everything.
I ain't,
Oh,
You gonna get
I ain't gonna say
offended.
nothing. No, I'm
that,
gonna be nice.
hey, that's
I'm gonna be
only gonna
nice.
that's only gonna last for a moment.
I know.
And
I
then he gonna hit the switch again.
It's all right. We're gonna be fine. Thank you guys. We'll see you next Thursday at 12:30. If you make it, if not, we'll be back, I know, on Sunday at 10 and Pastor Norman at 11. So
Yes.
have a great day and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Have a great one. Bye bye.